Hello again everyone from Tokyo, Japan, and welcome back to Japan Vintage Camera, where I'm coming to you again from Hinokicho Park on something of a chilly day. It's still early September, and normally early September it's t-shirt weather here still, but maybe 10 days ago or so, when the rainy weather blew in, it brought in cold weather with it, and the rain has remained pretty much every day, and the cold weather has also remained. So for the first time in a while, I'm wearing my windbreaker out here. We're hoping to get a little bit more warm weather here to enjoy before the autumn season comes, but who knows. So let's go ahead and get started with the subject of today's video, and it is going to be one of the most popular Konica rangefinder cameras, one which Konica produced for a large number of years, the Konica C35. For those of you who are new to my channel, I sell vintage Japanese cameras at my online store, japanvintagecamera.com. I also have an Etsy store which is also called Japan Vintage Camera, so if you'd like to buy this camera or another vintage Japanese camera, please visit one of my stores. I'll post links to my stores in the description below the video. So the Konica C35 was introduced in 1968 here in Japan, and it was a simple, classically styled 35mm rangefinder camera with an automatic operations system. This camera eventually evolved into a camera called the Konica C35 E&L, which looks just like this camera, except that it doesn't have a rangefinder. It is a scale focus camera. And the E&L evolved into the later C35 cameras, which eventually became kind of a black plastic camera, often with a built-in flash, which was called the Konica C35AF. All the Konica C35s, the standard C35s, featured a 38mm f2.8 lens. In Japan there was a version called the Konica C35fd, which featured a faster f1.8 lens, and you can identify this camera largely because of the larger lens on the front, and also that it has a plastic tip on the winding lever. The C35fd was kind of a semi-automatic camera, a shutter priority automatic camera. You would select the shutter speed and the camera would automatically select the best aperture for that shutter speed. Unfortunately, those cameras, I don't have a lot of luck with them. I used to try to pick them up, to fix them up and resell them, but they have a very weak light meter system which is prone to failure, and only one out of the last four of the Konica FDs which I've gotten has a working light meter, so I've kind of not bothered with those unless I am quite sure up front that the light meter works. Whereas the earlier ordinary C35FD, the inexpensive one, has a very reliable light meter which generally works properly. The C35, as you can see, as I said, is kind of a classically styled camera, and it borrows a lot from the earlier Konica cameras like the Hi-Matic and such, but in a lightweight, compact design and much easier for beginners to use. We'll take a look at the features, controls, and functions and how to use the C35, starting at the top. We have a silver colored camera here. These were also available in black paint. And unlike the earlier cameras, the C35 featured an aluminum top and bottom cover, which makes the camera lighter, but which makes it more susceptible to dents. It's much more easily dented than the brass body cameras, and you can kind of see a few dents on this one here. The dents normally don't mean very much. The cameras usually work quite well, dented or not. On the top here we have the film rewind lever with a pop-out lever with a plastic tip on it to make it easy to rewind the film. Here we have a hot shoe for mounting a flash. If you use a Konica flash, it's quite simple to use. Just use the auto flash setting, or you can use the guide number system here on the lens if you're using another kind of flash. Over to the other side here we have the film winding and shutter charging lever. Next to that we have the window for the film counter, and then of course here we have the shutter release button, which accepts a standard cable release. On the back here we have the viewfinder eyepiece, and this viewfinder is big enough to use for most people who wear glasses. It's made of plastic, so you don't have to worry about scratching your glasses. A lot of people here in Japan at this time wore glasses. Nowadays everyone here wears contacts, so anyway. We'll go ahead and take a look at the front here. We have the viewfinder window and the rangefinder window. If you have a C35 ENL, it will not have this rangefinder window. It will just have a complete piece of matte glass across the front here. This camera is a Flashmatic camera. There are different versions. The automatic flash system was quite a highly technological feature in the mid-late 60s. A lot like, I guess, multi-zone autofocus and stuff is nowadays. Here we have a self-timer lever located on the bottom. We have a ring on the back here where we can adjust the different settings. We have a ring on the bottom which has a B and bulb setting, as well as the guide number settings and automatic setting. If you're using the auto feature for the automatic shutter, just set the auto and line it up with the green numbers here. If you're using flash or other types of flash, you can push the button here and kind of turn the dials separately to choose the correct guide number and distance. Next to the auto button here, or excuse me, auto name, we have the focusing scale, which is arranged in meters and feet. And as this is the 38mm lens is kind of something of a wide angle lens, so you don't have a lot of turn. You can turn from infinity to 1 meter in just a small amount of turning distance, which makes it quite fast to focus compared to other cameras. On the front here we have the viewfinder, or excuse me, light meter eyepiece located on the top, and the film speed number or setting located on the bottom. To adjust the film speed, you have to turn this knurled ring around here, around the lens, and we have a range starting at say ASA 25, and how far does it go up to in this camera? Up to ASA 400. So and we have a focusing tab located here on the bottom, and we also have a PC sync socket located on this side. On the bottom of the camera we have a standard 1/4" tripod socket. We have the battery chamber cover here. This camera will work with a standard LR44 battery or SR44 battery, so unlike other cameras of this era, you don't have to hunt up those really difficult to find mercury batteries. Here we have the reset lever or release lever, which allows you to rewind the film. This unlocks the film winding mechanism. Overall, the controls are very simple, easy to use, and well laid out. Some people might have a little bit of difficulty with setting the film speed, because on some of these cameras this is a little bit sticky. This camera here has numerous dents and dings. It wasn't cared for very well, but everything on it still seems to work, fortunately. Loading film into the camera is quite simple. You simply pull up on the rewind knob, open the film door like so. And here you have the film chamber. This camera is still kind of dirty on the inside because I haven't started working on it yet. You would set your film canister here on the left side and push down the winding knob so it holds the film canister in place. Pull the film leader across the opening here on the back and feed it into the take-up spool, and then simply wind the film until it pulls all the way across and the holes on the top and bottom of the film are being caught by the teeth in the take-up spool. Then simply close the camera, wind the film, and fire the shutter until the number 1 shows up in the film counter window. One of the cool things about the C35 is that it has a pretty good range of shutter speeds, even though it's an automatic exposure camera. We have a range of shutter speed starting at 1/30th of a second. That's the slowest speed, and that's about as slow as most people can get away with holding a camera handheld. And it goes all the way up to 1/650th of a second, which gives it kind of an edge over a lot of the manual, I guess, manual or mechanical shutter cameras, which were popular in, say, like the Himatic series, what is the Konica, say the S2 or S3 or other S series. The camera selects the aperture and shutter speed automatically, and as you look through the viewfinder to the right side, you will see the scale. The scale will show, of course, the shutter speeds and the aperture that the camera is selecting. You can't really select a different combination of these speeds. It's kind of fixed in the camera, but for most photographs it's entirely adequate. And some cameras you can kind of play around a little bit. You can adjust the aperture and the camera will automatically adjust to a higher or lower shutter speed, or vice versa. Here you're pretty much stuck with what you have. The slower shutter speeds go with the faster apertures, and the higher shutter speeds go with more closed apertures for shooting in daylight and such. It's not a very good system for very artistic photography, but for more than 90% of photography it's completely adequate. Anyway, that's it for my video about the Konica C35. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comment section below. I plan to make more videos soon reviewing other cameras. If you'd like to see these, please subscribe. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you tune in again soon.